Injuries are piling up, breaks are disappearing, and Dallas is looming. Are the Lions surviving adversity or watching their season unravel? We're going to cut through the panic with a few hard truths about Detroit's playoff reality. Are we contenders or pretenders, folks? We discuss it right now. Forward down the field.
Down to the 10, Samir to the 5, Samir to the end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
Hand off Berry, skirts to the left side, breaks the tackle, and he will take it in, touchdown!
Touchdown Detroit Lions! That's what I'm talking about! It is caught! Touchdown Detroit Lions! Amon-Ra, St. Brown! Oh baby, what a play that time! Aiden Hutchinson read that and blew it up! Big time stand by that defense!
All right. Lions, Gray Mains, fam, welcome back in. It's been a minute. It has been a minute, gentlemen. Every once in a while we have to take breaks and do the holiday thing. And lo and behold, we had one of the worst weeks we have had in a long time. Unfortunately, what's that?
Our bad.
Our bad. Yeah, it's our bad. So if we stay consistent and we go live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m., we don't have 17 guys that go on IR with chronic knee injuries and shoulder surgeries. But welcome back. Chat is open, and we love to talk to you folks. So please, your questions. We are live. But gentlemen, we're going to be talking. I guess we're going to talk about some injuries because we have a ball game that's going to happen Thursday night on Amazon against one of the hottest teams right now, certainly in the NFC, but quite possibly in the NFL, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. And we've got quite possibly probably our second best offensive player in Amon-Ra St. Brown that got hurt. And so that's stressing a lot of people out. But I think if we're all going to be ranking what's stressing us out the most as we head into Dallas, it's probably our defense, if I'm being, since our offense, even without Amon-Ra for most of that game, our offense had some pretty good stretches. We had practice squad legend Tom Kennedy with some great catches at that game. DBC, I know you were at that game. Any thoughts on being there that you can share with the Gray Mains faithful here? Brent, you there?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, nice. So it was so cold in Detroit that he showed up frozen. So Brent will be joining us back on the show. But Dan, I think. I think if we're being honest right now, kind of feels like Calvin Shepard has got his work cut out for him with a really good offense, coming here from Dallas. Any thoughts from last week going into this week?
Well, this is a team they had a good offense. They're pretty good. Mainly their passing offense. Rushing is decent. It's not great. It's not bad. It's good. It's decent. A lot of respects, they mirror the Lions and their offensive production when we're, actually producing at a high rate. Biggest issue we're going to have is also our biggest detriment, or one of our biggest detriments right now, and that, their wide receivers draw tons of defensive pass interference. You've got a guy that's having basically a career year after coming over from Pittsburgh, where he was outcast and, basically being made a pariah by Pittsburgh. They didn't want him. They just got rid of him, and then they brought in DK Metcalf, and lo and behold, DK Metcalf is doing the same thing. It seems to be a Pittsburgh thing with wide receivers, and not the individual player, just the role in the offense. But we'll have our hands full. Terrion going on IR. Sounds like it's probably the same shoulder injury flared up that he tried to play through. If he needs to get it done, he needs to get it done. Probably should have done earlier in the year, but hey, at this point, might as well just shut him down, get it done, move on next year. If we make it to the playoffs, that will be fantastic. If we don't, it wasn't meant to be, whichever. But we still got, Most of our defensive backs are back. Kirby's a little up in the air. Clearly, he's got some sort of degenerative knee condition that's never going to improve. It's a lot like Ragnall's toe. Maybe they could try some microfracture or something like that to help fix the issue, or come up with some sort of injection or something. But at this point, I think he might very well be playing out his last year or so for us. Hey, you play with the players you have, you play with the hand you're dealt, and you try and rise up. They've done it before, and we still got some of those guys on our roster. So we'll see if it can happen again.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to be getting Glasgow back again, which I never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually happy that that's the case, because Tristan Colon wasn't exactly having a great game. Didn't exactly have a great game. Did see Coyote Awosika pop up on the injury report today, which was a bit of a surprise. He was limited today, so we just are not catching any breaks. And Brent, welcome back. Welcome back to the show, Brent. And I see you moving, so you're not frozen. You know what? You were frozen there for a second, Brent, but there are sometimes when people get frozen on the screen, and it's really just unfortunate, the screenshot that they're frozen on. But man, you were looking great, man. You looked like you were intently listening to whatever question I had that I was asking you. But Brent, it seems like we're not catching any breaks, right? It's just It's kind of like it was last year, heading late into the season, but we were piecing it together and getting some W's. Now we've got injuries, not just all on the defense like it seemed like last year. It seems like it's just in really key positions. You've got all-pro tight end and Sam Laporta gone, his backup gone. Now we've got. I know Ross Dwelly is one of our guys. I don't ask me who the other tight end or two that I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to be able to name them. You got Kirby, all pro safety trending, potentially out. You've got pro bowlers all over the place. Amon-Ra St. Brown, likely out. We're just not catching a lot of breaks, Brent. And if you ask MCDC, he's probably going to tell you, hey, listen, next man up, right? This is why you bring in all these guys. But do you feel like we brought in enough guys standing pat at the trade deadline? Because Holmes and Campbell are getting a lot of flack for that. But I wanted to roll this to both you and Dan and kind of talk about this thing, because there's a lot of stuff that seems like it's out of their control, right? There's a lot of lucky things that have happened. Unlucky things, I should say, for our team. But Brent, let's talk about that. What are your feelings now about all these breaks that we're not catching, and how we can? Because you, my friend, are the Chief Intelligence Officer of Lions Optimism. So we're looking for a ray of sunshine from you, DBC. What do you got?
Well, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of debate about the moves that weren't made.
Yeah.
What moves were not made. And we talked a lot about this over the months, and frankly, the moves that Brad didn't make are the ones now that everybody's questioning. Why didn't you make these moves? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when you suffer injuries at positions that you have invested so heavily in, and that you will invest heavily in, meaning Laporta is going to get a big contract more than likely. And we've stacked our secondary pretty well, and you look at the defensive end position, and you look at the offensive line, and we talked about this before the season even. The defensive end depth is not up to NFL standards. You're going to have weaknesses in every team. You're going to have areas that are not as strong as other areas, and we are weak in our depth on the offensive line. Before this thing got rolling, we talked about what happens if Penei Sewell or one of our starting offensive linemen gets injured. We've had multiple injuries on an area that was not very deep. Defensive end, our inability to put pressure on the quarterback makes your secondary vulnerable. So those are the main points, Chris, where the Lions just have had 2 years in a row of devastating injuries at key positions, and having the schedule that we have this year, is not lining up for us to be successful and make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, roll this to Dan. I mean, that's a good point. Guys, we've watched this franchise for decades. Are we witnessing legitimate bad luck, or is this what like first place schedules and high expectations actually look like when this margin for error disappears? Dan, what do you got?
Opinion, or you want the fans' opinion?
I want your opinion. I want your opinion.
My opinion.
I know what the fans' opinion is.
Oh my God. That's just embarrassing. Let's just leave it at that. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. There was, I think, one interior offensive lineman traded at somewhere near the trade deadline this year, and they just weren't moving. So people can say what they want, clamor for what they want. You're not going to overpay for an interior offensive lineman, especially someone that's at the end of their contract, and they're only letting people go if they're out of contention. And there was a lot of teams still in contention at the trade deadline. There was maybe about 3 or 4 teams that probably say, yeah, you could go raid them. They're not going to make the playoffs. So, from that perspective, whatever. You try, and if you can't get a guy, you can't get a guy. You certainly don't overpay for a guy, that may or may not happen. Look what happened to the Colts. They trade for Sauce Gardner, and they gave up a lot for that dude. He's probably going to miss the rest of the regular season with a severely strained hamstring. It is a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So you just never know, And as far as edge goes, they're throwing out names, the Myles Garretts, the Max Crosby's, whatever, again, Green Bay screwed the market when they traded for Parsons at the beginning of the year. Really, Dallas did, by just shipping him off. They did another Herschel Walker trade. So that killed the market for edges at the trade deadline. Nobody was going to really let go any good edge for less than at least a first round draft pick. And, unless you're getting a guy that's got 2-3 years under contract that makes sense financially, you're not going to pull the trigger on that. And we had to sign Hutch. It is what it is. I think it'll get addressed this offseason for sure, whether it's with a draft pick. I doubt he'll go for a high price free agent, but who knows? Maybe he's at the point now where he's going to make, and he being Brad Holmes, he's going to say, okay, now it's time to start going in. Our window is here. It's not closed. I mean, we are 7-5. We are 2 games above 500. We are within a game and a half of first place.
There we go.
Playoff wise and all that good stuff. So, and by the way, hey, Laken Tomlinson became a free agent today. He got cut.
Oh, Laken Tomlinson. I can't believe old grandpa, Uncle Laken Tomlinson is still in the National Football League. Was he playing when they had chin straps and leather helmets, or when
oh my gosh. He was Martin Mayhew's greatest offensive lineman.
Martin Mayhew.
Right? Was it Mayhew that drafted him, or was that before him? Was that a Millen draft pick? I don't know.
God,
but both
hilarious.
him and the Darius Slay got cut about 2 hours ago. So he was a scrap. Now, again, cornerback, I think we're not terrible at. A veteran like Slay may help, but he's not been playing the greatest this year, clearly. But hopefully that answered your question. I just, the trade deadline's trade deadline. You're either gonna go put all your chips in, but if it fails, you not only don't make the playoffs, don't make the Super Bowl, you have screwed yourself for the future. And that's where Brad Holmes, as general manager, has to decide, are we in that position like his counterpart in Philadelphia, who, by the way, their fans are delusional. They think, oh, they can always just make this. Dude, you guys have a bill coming. There is a train barreling down the tracks of void money that is going to decimate that team in a few years, where they're going to have so much dead cap. Yes, the revenue's going up from the TV, but holy smokes, they're in trouble. They just don't know it yet. So,
wow. It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, Dan, because there's a lot of folks who are giving the Bears a lot of credit because they signed a center and 2 guard, or made a trade for a guard and signed a guard. And just listen, Chris, to the amounts of money that were spent on those players. Jonah Jackson, $14.7 million this year. Joe Thuney, $8 million this year. Drew Dahlman, $13.64 million this year. The Lions have $21 million in cap space. Could we have signed some salvageable parts for $5 or $6 million? maybe, possibly. But I agree with Dan that the reality is that the Lions have limited resources which to deal with, and you have to rely upon players at some point being healthy. And the Lions have just had an unfortunate situation this year where you've got all the confidence in the world. Mahogany's missed what, 7 games now, 8 games.
I don't think that many, but I think he will by the time he comes back.
Right, by the time he's done. Right. I'm sorry, that good call out, because it was meant to just point out the fact that you miss a guy that you have that has really high performance rates, PRR ratings for his play. You've got another guard on the other side that you have drafted and invested a high draft pick in. And, he's played relatively well, and you lose your center for a couple games and you lose your starting left guard. Depth becomes a concern. And so, in reality, the Lions have built a heck of a roster, a really, really strong roster. When healthy.
Yeah. I'm not sure, Brent, my thoughts was Jalen Phillips at the trade deadline. Now, in hindsight, we kind of thought, well, AQM, was still playing pretty well. Now he's completely invisible. Ooh. Yeah, right. Now he's been demoted and getting fewer and fewer snap counts. Now we're experimenting with Lee McNeil on the edge, and I just feel like when it comes down to it, when you've got Hutch, who's clearly as talented as any edge in the league, and there's something that's not happening there, and I don't know how they look at double teams. He certainly gets attention. I think a lot of chips, not necessarily straight up double teams. It's kind of hard to double team both him and Lee McNeil and expect, but if those guys are getting all the attention, where is it? Somebody's got to win their one-on-ones here, and we need to be getting more of a pass rush. And if Dak can sit back in that pocket all day and start throwing to Lamb, and he's got a great tight end to throw to, they have an excellent running game. It's going to be another shootout, and we're going to have to really, keep up. I wanted to, guys, before we start rolling into and talking about this, we do have our friends that are in the chat. The two fans here, Pretenders, Contenders, or Avengers. Let's go Lions. Thanks for joining us, the two fan. Wanda says she's been missing us, and Wanda, we've been missing you too. Thanks again for joining us. This is a great question. We're going to get to this. Do you think the Lions might still be able to sneak into the playoffs? And here's my thoughts. I'm going to roll it to you guys. And that is, obviously, 5 games left. We go 5-0. Yes. The answer is yes. Do we think we can go 5-0? No, I don't. And so I think 4-1 would be okay. Maybe we lose to the Rams, who did lose this past weekend. But I still
Carolina.
feel like the Rams are still a formidable team. I still consider them the best team in the NFC. And you got to go last game of the season and go into Chicago, which is likely going to be very, very cold, and you're going to have double glove golf in the frozen tundra it'll always be Soldier Field to me, but I'm sure it's some sponsorship of some sort. But that's when it starts to break down. We go 3-2, you have to start looking for help. And what you don't want to do is be in that situation where you need multiple levels of help near the end of the year. Well, we've got to win, and we need San Francisco to lose, and we need this team to lose, and we need this team to lose. A lot of these teams that are in contention in the NFC West, they're all playing each other near the end of the season. We're playing a lot of our NFC North, teams. They're playing each other. They're beating up on each other. So we're obviously going to be watching a lot of those games. So, do I think that we might able to? The answer, Wanda, is yes. I think we might be able to do that. But it would mean going at least 3-2 and getting a little help. And you want to hope for at least 4-1. through this 5-game stretch. I think the Steelers feels like a winnable game. The Vikings feels like a winnable game. Can't lose to that team, and I still don't understand how we lost to them in that first game. And obviously the Bears, and I'm forgetting one of the final games.
Up for us, yeah, we play in Minnesota on
Minnesota,
Christmas.
Chicago, Pittsburgh, and who's the
Rams.
Rams
Okay.
and Dallas. Yeah,
Dallas.
You said it all. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dan, your thoughts? We're going to get into the playoffs?
Hard to say. I mean, holy smokes. Every week there's a new guy going down, you know? I mean,
I know.
we're experiencing you could take injuries if you build a depth roster, you could take injuries across the board, right? If there's one here, one there. We're down 2 tight ends. We're still down a Pro Bowl safety, ascending cornerback. You know, we're getting healthier, but we're also still struggling in certain areas. Our O-line has been dinged up. And it's not just guys missing games, it's guys that are playing hurt. You know, when they're playing at 80%, that impacts your performance too, even though they're out there.
Yeah.
You know, Graham Glasgow, when he's fully healthy, or Penny Sewell or Taylor Decker or Ratledge, whoever, when these guys are fully healthy, they're decent to really, really good players. But when you're playing hurt, you know, things happen. And you know, that's part of our problem. I mean, you look at our list today, you know, we've got all of a sudden Penny popped up with a shoulder injury today. You know, Awasika popped up with a foot injury today.
Yep.
You know, Ratledge wasn't on, thankfully. Looks like Glasgow's getting healthier. Decker's been injured the entire season. You know, I mean, so the answer to your question is, I don't know. You know, this team is
come on, Dan, take a shot.
It's an enigma, man.
Take a shot, buddy.
I was fully prepared to say we could easily go 5-1 with the only loss to the Rams on the road, because, you know, let's be honest, the Vikings are a disaster. We should have never lost to them here. I have no idea what happened there. Should have beat Philadelphia. I mean, we shoulda. There's only a couple games this year where we actually deserve to lose because we played terribly, right? And that's just been the story this year. You brought it up earlier in the show. It's about the breaks, right? It's about the bad juju around this team this year. You know, we're not getting any ball bounces. How many times in that game last week on Thanksgiving against the Packers did that ball not bounce to us when it could have? You know, we're getting, and I'm not going to blame the officiating, but we seem to be again back to the Lions getting the finding out the weird officiating, you know, rules popping up around us. You know, we've had some issues where we've been the benefit of some officiating calls, and we've had issues where we have definitely not been the benefit of some officiating calls. The injury situation, there's just like a cascading bad karma going on with this team right now. You know, we can't get over the hump, and every time we try, you know, something just, and maybe it's the fact that we lost not just our OC and our DC, but we lost like pretty much every, you know, 2/3 of our coaching staff. You know, and we had to reset, and that might be part of this too. I just don't know.
I think it's starting to rear its head. I think.
I mean, we're struggling. Let's be honest, we're struggling. You know, Shep is struggling. He's been, you know, he is now 2/3 of the way through his rookie season, and teams have figured him out. You know, I'm not sure what he's got going on, but this bullshit, and excuse my language, of making, you know, pulling out the wide 9 with frickin' putting Hutch out 5 yards outside the tackle. That is stupid. You are not going to get home on a stunt if you're starting your defensive end 3 yards outside the tackle and expect him to loop around and get to the quarterback up the middle. It's not happening. Yeah. It's terrible design. And it's just like dropping him into coverage in the first game of the year against the Packers. What the hell? You know? So Shep is clearly trying some things different than what, you know, we had been doing for the last 4 years. And I think it's starting to backfire a little bit because it's either been found out, but all season our time to pressure has been the worst in the league. We're getting there eventually because our DBs and safeties were playing well. Our linebackers are playing well, but now we're not. We're playing we're playing some decent quarterbacks, but they've also know how to beat us now. You know, even a crappy quarterback can defeat us if they are preparing to get that ball out within 3 seconds, knowing that we're not going to get there.
Yeah. And we have a new friend in the chat. Notorious TBG says, bear down. Okay. All right. Well, listen, everyone's welcome. We appreciate you contributing to the algorithm, and you guys are having a good season, so congratulations on that so far. I mean, listen, Notorious TBG is not wrong on this comment either necessarily. Lions lived by the sword, now they're dying by the sword. Why you guys play so much man coverage when you don't have the personnel is a bad look. Okay, so let's talk about the secondary here. Thank you for the transition, Notorious TBG. And Brent, put a pin in it because we're going to find out, because I want to find out what your thoughts are on Wanda's question about making the playoffs. Guys, the secondary, lots of man coverage. That's really kind of the MO of the defense. And we're getting burned. I mean, Amik is it seems like every game he's a step behind somebody. It was Christian Watson this past one. So Brent, is it defensive communication breakdowns? Is these guys just don't have time, to gel? Are they learning on the fly? We just have different guys that are coming in and out. It feels like a coaching issue more than maybe a talent issue. What are your thoughts on the secondary?
It's time to look critically at the way the defense is being called. Absolutely agree with Notorious that we are vulnerable because of injuries. The biggest piece is Kirby. When you have to play, and the Lions have done this through various parts of games. They played Brian Branch at free safety, and Brian Branch is not a free safety. Brian Branch is a strong safety, plays well in spots in the slot. Missing Kirby, I think, is the biggest issue that we have in the secondary. And look, the safety over the top, Kirby was magnificent against the Packers in the last couple of years against the Pack. He ended Aaron Rodgers' career in Green Bay, remember? Multiple interceptions. And so I think that's a huge component of why the Lions have struggled in the secondary. Play calling, scheme, big part, but Kirby missing is really impossible to duplicate. I don't think that the players that Dan has talked about over the past few weeks have played poorly. And in fact, you remember a few weeks ago when it was all backups, street people that we pulled off of the practice squad played magnificently. Maybe we need to stop focusing so much on what we think the players can do and look at the scheme and play more zone and create some confusion this week, because it's going to be critical. Dak Prescott can pick us apart with the receivers that the Cowboys have if we don't get some confusion through the scheme that we employ. And I think the defensive line, the pass rush has been poor. We've given up more rushing yards because of the time of possession and the amount of time that the Lions have allowed their defense to be on the field. Our linebackers, as Dan alluded to, have played well. We don't have a lot of injuries on the defensive line or the linebackers. They have to step up this week and help create pressure so that the secondary can stand up, hopefully with the right scheme. Yeah. And it's a combination of what creates the best defense. Is it your coverage, or is it the rush and the pressure that you put on the quarterback? And it's got to be a combination of both of those this week. The scheme's got to be right, and the pressure's got to be good on the quarterback, or we're gonna be in for a long day and a high scoring affair.
Yeah, Dan, are our DBs actually worse with players returning because the communication's fractured, or are we just seeing what average NFL secondaries look like without elite pass rush?
I mean, those two coaches, O'Neal and Townsend, are two of the coaches on defense that we didn't lose, right? They didn't forget how to coach, right?
Yeah.
And, Brent is spot on with not having Kirby back there. Harper is actually playing really, really well. He's not an all-pro that's picking off 9 passes, right?
Yep.
And you're seeing that happen with Chicago. You're seeing that happen with a couple other teams where there's guys, they've got a center fielder back there who's super smart. I mean, some of those passes against the Giants that were moon balls that Winston was putting up, Kirby picks off one or two of those. Our guys weren't they didn't have the sense, they weren't understanding where they should be based off of what's going on. That's a part of it, but I also am a huge proponent that the issue we have, a lot of it right now, is just so many guys are coming back. These guys DJ Reed didn't forget how to play cornerback. Amik Robertson did not forget how to play cornerback, right? Branch didn't forget how to play safety, right? But the issue we have, and I can tell you Amik's issue, 2 weeks ago against the Giants, Amik's issue was DJ Reed came back and he had been playing as the number one cornerback for how many weeks in a row, right? 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they asked him,
and
then they asked him to move over to the other side of the field.
Yeah.
He struggled.
Yeah.
He was getting cooked by that guy from the Giants, right?
Wandale Robinson.
Right. And Wandale is a very fast, he's like Amon-Ra Brown. He's similar size to him and very, very quick and fast, right? So Amik was getting there. Last week he had trouble with Watson because Green Bay was smart. They got a matchup against Amik. Amik's not that big of a guy, right? So you put their 6'3.5", 6'4" wide receiver on our shortest cornerback. And let's be honest, there was times when Amik Robertson actually played well. I mean, he had good coverage and he just either number one, the touchdown was BS because that was a clear push off. I mean, you're not running side by side with that guy and all of a sudden there's a yard and a half of separation and he darts to the inside to get the pass when Amik has the inside leverage on him. That would have been an INT or should have been without that PI, OPI that was not called. But so you have that going on there. You have Harper playing pretty well back there. The linebackers are doing their thing. Branch is playing a little bit. You lose the cohesiveness when you got to bump Amik up to a cornerback one on the outside. That means your interior guys have been guys like Mollett. Branch sometimes playing in the nickel.
Yeah.
It's very disruptive to your defensive backs, and the communication issues are part of that. We have given up a lot of passing touchdowns, but I'd say at least a quarter of them have been on these ridiculous rub routes out of these bunch formations because these guys don't know who to cover, or they cover them too late, or they're out of position. And that's all, playing together, understanding each other, playing a role that you're familiar with, where that as the slot, you got this guy, as the outside corner, you got this guy. So guys, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards this. These guys didn't just start sucking all of a sudden. I think part of it's just a combination, again, of multiple factors. And we're unfortunately, seeing that with dudes coming back and moving guys down and out of roles they've been playing for a few weeks and gotten comfortable with.
It's not just the injuries and guys out, it's guys coming back in, right? It's that consistency that's really causing those communication issues. Here's a stat from Mike Terry. The Lions defense has the highest average time to throw in the NFL in 2025 at 2.99 seconds, which is also reflected in their lowest ranked average time to pressure at 2.92 seconds.
And that's a change up front. We're seeing it. You can see it in the alignment, and playing Aleem, who's not super explosive on the outside, instead of a guy like, James Houston, we get to visit with him this week because he plays for the Cowboys now. When you don't have a quick speed guy or somebody like AQM who was doing that earlier in the season out there, and you put a little bit slower guy, I mean, that just weakened two positions.
Yeah.
Because Aleem is one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL. And by moving him outside, you're putting in two bigger dudes in Tyleek and Reader inside. Yes, they're doing great at the run stop, but they are not going to get a lot of pass rush. So in this week, and I'm going to kind of go against the grain of what Brent said, you absolutely have to play man-to-man coverage against these guys, because you think that Dak's going to pick us apart in man-to-man. What the hell do you think he's going to do against us in zone? He is going to sit back there when he's got 3 seconds to sit back there, paint his nails like Caleb Williams.
Just looking at open windows.
And looking around, where's the hole at? Oh, let me give him I got second and a half.
Gotta
to get
find
it
a way
there.
to get
No one's
pressure.
going to be breathing on me.
When did we have the most success this year?
When we were doing hybrids and playing against a bunch of beat up wide receivers from Tampa Bay with a bunch of guys that didn't know how to think. They just went out and played.
Well,
And
we
how
haven't
does
told to go play a
how does
position.
CeeDee Lamb look against, Amik and Rock Yassin and DJ?
Well, honestly,
How
at this
does
point,
that
Rock
look?
Yacin's is playing cornerback better than Amik is
That's
at
a different
outside
question,
corner.
though, right? I mean, I agree with you, Dan, by the way, but the question is, man to man on these receivers is going to be a long night.
You're asking me, do I want to take the poison or do I just want to pop myself off in the temple? That's what you're asking me right now. What do you want? Do you want it quick or do you want it slow? Right?
I'd rather take it
I'm
slow.
not taking. I don't want to take the zone because with these guys, the zone.
I'd rather take it slow.
But the problem
Why
is,
am I laughing
zone,
at that? That was so dark.
it's a terrible analogy and very dark. Absolutely, but you also have to play matchups, right? I don't know. I know that CeeDee Lamb's a taller guy, right? I don't know about the other dude. I don't know how tall he is.
Yeah, they're tall guys. They're bigger receivers.
Reed's 5'9", Dorsey's 5'8", Robertson's 5'9". Guess what? Rock Ya-Sin's 5'11". So he's our tallest cornerback. You got to get this guy out there against taller dudes. He doesn't. It's not like he was a first round draft. I'm sorry, was he a first round? I think he was a second pick of the second round for the Dolphins, or Patriots, whoever it was. But if Amik is better suited for the nickel, get him on the nickel and get the taller corner out there. You gotta, the bottom line is you gotta put your best players on the field in where your unit is the strongest. You can't, let's say this D line putting Aleem out at edge, that weakens the whole unit.
Yeah, I think that was getting cute. I mean, you remember? I don't know what week it was, but actually, I do remember. It was week 1, and Calvin Shepard had Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport back covering guys, right? Yeah. And it was like that felt like a cute move. It's like, why is Aleem playing edge? Why is Aiden Hutchinson out in the wide 9? Like it's it was kind of a weird sort of. It felt too cute. And I think it's a little bit like, let's get to the basics here. Marcus Davenport's got to show up. These are guys that, like, we have, Pro Bowl Aiden Hutchinson, who, just to your point, didn't all of a sudden start sucking. Aleem McNeil, these guys, are getting chipped, double teamed. So Marcus Davenport, man, it's time for you to show up, man. And hopefully we're going to, he played a full game without getting hurt, guys. We should at least, I should hit the applause button.
Well, he was reportedly on the field.
Right. Didn't exactly.
I mean, he had no statistics.
Yes. I did see him standing there, and I'm pretty sure he had that. It was his number.
He was on the field, right?
That's good stuff,
look,
Brent, Dan.
Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
The truth of the matter is, guys, that we have to mix up the scheme. We can't just play straight man-to-man. We don't have Kirby over the top. We don't have his range and his playmaking ability. So what do you have to hope for? You have to hope for making them go on long drives, which is a whole nother conversation when we talk about coaching and decisions. But we have to force them to go on long drives, make many plays to get from end to end versus the shot to the temple. I'm still laughing about that. I don't know. I don't know why, but the shot to the temple is very demoralizing. CeeDee Lamb and Pickens going, 70 yards on a bomb against Amik Robertson is a disaster. So if you don't mix up the coverages and create some milliseconds, hopefully 2.92 seconds for Dak to sit back there and think before the pressure can get to him, hey, they're in a zone. They haven't been playing a zone. Where's my reads? To just go man to man is absolutely, I think, the worst thing that the Lions can do in this situation, Dan.
You got to be who you are too. I mean, if we're not a zone team, you just can't switch to zone and expect to play it well either.
Why did I ask about our best secondary game? It was when all of our starters were out.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was our best secondary game. We played well against Tampa at home, but I don't know if that was our best game of the year,
Yeah, I mean it's a
well,
debate
it's our
worth
best one
having,
against
though,
a
right?
good team. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't count the
let's put it this-
Browns. You know, I mean, you can't
The
really.
Bengals without Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Here's the deal, right? We can debate coverage scheme in the backfield all we want, right? But really, realistically, to beat these guys, you just got to stack. You just got to put basically nickel or dime on the field the whole time, right? I mean, their rushing game is average. You know, Javonte Williams is their best rusher. The guy's he's got around 1,000 yards, but you know he's averaging 4.8, but he's the only one that's doing anything of note, right? I mean, Dak is their second best rusher, right? So what did we do against Lamar? You know, what did we do against other rushing quarterbacks? Those are the guys you got to balance that out and hope that you can, you know, stop the passing because clearly we're not getting home. So if Shep does what he said in his presser yesterday, where he's going to change up personnel, change up design to try and get home quicker without using a blitz, then so be it, right? And maybe we do blitz. Maybe that's the answer. You know, you blitz him more. He does sometimes have, despite being a veteran, he does sometimes have a little struggle when you get in his head and you start hammering him, right? So maybe that's the answer. I don't know. But I would say that, you know, regardless of what we do, you know, more help to the DBs and less help to the line, and let our D line and linebackers take care of the running game because I think they can do it. You know, this isn't the Dallas Cowboys of old. You know, their O line is not superior anymore like it used to be. So if you give up some rushing yards, that goes right back to what you said, Brent. You know, it's that slows them down and makes them drive, right? And if you do that and you get them off you get them off balance, get them off schedule, force them to pass, and you can blitz them and get in there, you know, so be it.
Yeah, I think that was a great comment. I miss who it was, Chris, that just popped up there with the comment about the Baltimore game. If you remember, there were some similarities between the Bucks game and the Baltimore game that are worth pointing out here, right? Because what caused us to be successful against Baltimore was we played a spy on their quarterback. Dak will run the ball, right? We have to figure out a way to make Dallas one-dimensional, take away the running game. And if it's, you know, the blitz can take away the running game, but you do make yourself a little bit more vulnerable if you gap them and you get the running back gets loose. And then suddenly you're 5-8 yards down the field every play because you're gapping the blitz. So it does a spy, you know, the Campbell, we saw it in the Ravens game where we had Anzalone and Campbell and Barnes at various points switching up the scheme and creating, you know, pressure from various angles and various directions while simultaneously keeping that spy in the center of the field to take away the running game. That sounds to me like the recipe that he may be describing here, where employ what we did against the Ravens and the Bucks, and bring the pressure and stop, you know, their running game, because 4.8 yards per carry is almost Hall of Fame. I think Barry was 4.9 yards per carry, right?
It just feels like, guys, you know, we're spending a lot of time on defense and for good reason. But I think, you know, what's going to make your defense better is if we have the ball longer on offense, right? And we're keeping Dak, and we're keeping this. And you mentioned Barnes. I mean, this is another guy. It's like, where has Derek Barnes been since that Tampa Bay game? He has not been making plays. These other guys, Davenport, Barnes, AQM, like these guys are going to have to step up. They are getting singled and they're not winning. And Duncan Stewart says 3 down linemen is best, 4 LBs in coverage. All right. Thanks for that. Corey Patterson, we appreciate you joining us. It says we played well against Tampa, but we were hurt. Wonder if they were healthy, if it would have been the case. That certainly is, you know, worth
smoked us.
Worth talking. So Brent, let's go back to it because we never got your take. And Dan waffled and wouldn't give me a rest of season thought, but that's okay. Brent,
I just don't know.
we go 3-2. We go 3-2 with some help. We go 4-1 and play a wild card on the road. We go 5-0 and somehow turn this thing around. What's your take on this? Are we cooked, or are we going to squeeze into the playoffs? Per Wanda's question.
Here's where we come full circle. Dan Campbell has got to change his approach to coaching these upcoming games. Force teams to go the long way to the end zone and to get to short field goals by getting 10 yards. We've got to see Dan Campbell learn lessons from the past few weeks. If he coaches the way he coached the past 4 weeks and goes for it on fourth down and fakes punts at midfield and continues to give the opponents great field position, the Lions are cooked. Absolutely cooked. There is no way we're going to win 3 or 4 games with the decision-making being what it's been these past few weeks.
Okay.
I really do think that, number one, he's been very resistant to changing, much like the criticisms of Brad Holmes. We can debate the roster all day, but the point is he has got to change his approach to managing field position and stop going for it on every fourth down. Teams expect it. Teams believe that they know what they need to do to stop it. And the Packers, the Eagles, every one of these teams has had success in stopping us in those situations. And, I don't care what anybody says. The Lions would be right now 3 wins up if he had managed field position better. There would be the possibility of winning against multiple teams if we had played the long game, especially Philadelphia, especially Minnesota, especially the time and again going for it on fourth down. If we do that, we're absolutely not going to make the playoffs. Now, the good news is that if we play the long game and force teams to go 80 yards plus, we know what Jack Fox can do. He gave Jack Fox a game ball last week because he pinned, I think it was 4 or 5 punts inside the 10-yard line, or at about the 10-yard line or better.
Yeah.
Play that game. You're going to have to do it against Dallas. You're going to have to do it against the Rams. You're going to have to do it against teams that can put points on the board. And if you pin Minnesota, if you pin Chicago, if you pin Pittsburgh, you're going to win those games just by being smart about the way that you manage field position. LA and Dallas, they absolutely can light up the scoreboard. So we've got to be able to win 4 of those 5 games. And if we make some adjustments in scheme, as we've been talking about, and we haven't even gotten to the offensive line yet, but we've got to make sure that defensively we're giving our defense the ability to manage a long field versus short fields.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you that I think the mentality of going for it so much on fourth down worked really well when you had Frank Ragnow, Glasgow at his best position as opposed to center. And last few years offensive lines. I think this year it's like he's going to have to do more of that. I agree. It's going to have to be more field position playing. And Donkey Kong 43 says it's mock draft time. I don't. Okay, so
not yet.
So clearly that's it. And we will have segments talking about that, but we're not going to do that yet. For
coming
for sure. But
listen. Donkey Kong 43. That sounds like he's 67 plus 25. Donkey Kong Jr. 43.
He's our age, Brent. That's what you're trying to
say. he's a gray mane too, I think.
Yeah. I do have a thought here. I disagree with both of you, but I also agree with both of you.
Okay.
I disagree.
There he is waffling again.
No, it's not. This isn't
such
waffling.
a hedger
it's
tonight.
Based
Such
in
a
logic,
hedger.
right? I disagree with you on the stop going forward on fourth down. What I agree with
so
you
much.
on is the shit play calling that is taking place. Brent
Absolutely.
just said, you don't run the damn ball up the middle of the field behind your second string O-line center, who's technically your third one because the other one was out hunting deer 3 weeks ago and had a torn hammy, right? You got to be very, I don't want to say creative, but it's almost like a 2-point play. You got to run your best play when you're going for it on fourth down and it's 4th and 3 or less, right? And that is where we have struggled. The only fourth down thing I disagree with this entire year was that fake punt. I thought that was stupid. I didn't like it. And and you can ask my kid about this because he tells me to shut up. He's tired of hearing me yell it. Every team, I don't care if it's Michigan, Ohio State, Detroit Lions, Baltimore Ravens, when it's 4th and goal, or 4th and less than a yard, outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, who have been exposed this year, because guess what? They don't have their center anymore either. Stop packing all 22 dudes within about an 8-yard width in the center of the field. Spread these fools out and create lanes and let your guys block and let your backs do their thing. I
Yeah.
hate that.
We
So to me,
saw that with Monty, Dan. I mean, when he got that 4-yard
yes,
rushing touchdown, he was carrying only 2 guys, not 6
4.
or 7 guys,
yeah.
right?
But my point is this: the one play that should have worked, it was a great play call. It
And JMO
worked.
dropped it.
No, Goff
Hit
threw a
4th
shit
down.
pass behind him. He should have caught it, but that
Oh no, I'm
pass
talking
was
about last
definitely.
game
I
against
am
Green
too.
Bay. Yeah,
Yeah,
when it
Goff
hit him right on the 1.
It did not
It
hit.
was
It hit
behind
him
him.
behind him.
It was behind
It was a
him.
terrible throw by Goff. Goff even owned it.
He's an
He got too
NFL player.
excited. I don't disagree. I subscribe to if it hits you in the hands, you should catch it, right? But my point is that was an execution issue. That wasn't a play calling issue. That wasn't a go for it issue. And the analytics, which Campbell's a huge analytics guy, that's what's dominating this fourth down going for it, epidemic throughout the NFL. If it says kick the field goal or go for it, and it has 2 odds it gives you, odds to be successful converting it, whether it's a first down or a field goal, and the odds of what's it going to do to you winning the game by either converting the fourth down or kicking the field goal. And Campbell subscribes, if both of them favor going for it, he will go for it every time. And that's what he is. The problem is you got to make sure you make the right call. You cannot make calls. Earlier this year, I don't know what game it was that we lost, but we're just like screaming. Maybe it was a Philly game when Ratledge went out with the injury, or the Redskins, the Commanders game. One of those games, he went out and we tried to do a fourth down run behind the backup, and we're just like, what the hell are you doing? You already, yes, running it to the right side normally works. That's our best guys, but not when you are down a guy because he's nursing an injury and you got a cold backup in there. So.
All right, guys. We still have to preview Dallas. Let's do this rapid fire if we can. And again, we love in the chat tonight. Thank you, Duncan and Corey, for chiming in. Lots of comments about Holmes and Campbell. We were going to get that was on the docket tonight. A lot of people complaining about Brad Holmes not doing enough, not standing pat, at the trade deadline. We covered that a little bit earlier. Lots of things about Campbell. Comment here in the chat about Campbell not looking confident in pressers. Listen, you win more, and all of a sudden he looks more confident. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the guy's body language in a press conference.
Bad news
but
every time he walks in the building.
Yeah, I mean,
of course he's going to look depressed.
Yeah, I think he's doing what he can. And of course, even the medical staff is getting all kinds of and training staff is getting stuff from the It's like, listen, these guys want to be playing. They don't want to be injured. Chronic knee injuries from Kirby. So we're gonna move on to to Dallas. So let me make sure I've got this pulled up. So there's tail of tape. Can we run this down really quickly, Dan?
Yeah. Dallas's defense is mid. Our defense is better, although it's struggling. Our offenses are almost identical in terms of year to date, although we are struggling with our line, and they have figured out how to use their wide receivers to their advantage. So advantage passing game to them, but not by a lot. But of course, St. Brown being out, if he's out, that really impairs us. Our rushing game is far superior to theirs.
Yeah.
Even though theirs is decent, it's still not as good as ours, not even close. And again, our defense across the board is just better, but I think I think Brent brought it up. They acquired a couple guys. So they're kind of trending up,
Yeah.
and we're kind of trending down primarily due to injury and whatever's going on with this pass rush.
All right. Brent, any thoughts on this tail of tape? Looks like, all of a sudden our defense is just, obviously in terms of ranking, but I think to your point, Dan, it's like, boy, it sure doesn't feel like it for the last 4 games. This being a season-long look in terms of rankings, I would say it's pretty close in terms of the tail of the tape. I haven't looked at the spread for Thursday night's game.
I haven't looked either. I've been kind of busy this week, but look, the reality is that the Lions have the home field. The crowd's going to be rocking. It's a Thursday night game. This is where Dan Campbell really excels historically, coming up with a game plan to match up with the opponent that will produce results. So I think the Lions are going to put forth a really good effort this week. There is a lot of talent. There is more talent on this team than we had 3 years ago, even with all the injuries that we've had. and so the reality is the Lions need to step up, play really well defensively, and be effective offensively. Now, the biggest concern I have is about our ability to protect Jared Goff. The good news is, Dan pointed this out, that the Cowboys defensively are 28th in 28 sacks, tied for 16th in the NFL. We have got to, hopefully Glasgow's able to play. Dan, is Mahogany on the clock to come back? I know we're getting close to time.
He's eligible, but with a broken leg, a hairline fracture, we're probably looking at like closer to the Bears game or maybe the playoffs before he's back. He's doing work off to the side right now at the facility, so he's definitely starting to trend back.
Yep. So we've got to have these reserves step up and play well this week. If you're asking for a prediction, Chris, which I don't think you did, but let me just say that this is going to be a very close game. It can go either way. There's going to be 5 or 6 calls in this game that ultimately determine who wins and who loses. Do the Cowboys prove successful? Do the Lions prove successful in those crucial calls? Lack of punts, 4th downs, game management issues. And frankly, can we keep Dak Prescott and that receiving core in check?
I tell you the key stat here: turnovers. When we played the Vikings way back when, that was the start of our, depression beginning. we had 11 turnovers going into that Vikings game. We are 4 games later, we have 13 turnovers. We have forced 2 turnovers in 4 weeks. That sucks. That's terrible. The defensive pass defense, which we are just all over, going into the Vikings game, we were giving up 212.3 yards per game. Going into the Cowboys game, what are we giving up, Chris?
I'm sorry, go ahead. What
if you look at the stats, tail of the tape, how many yards per game passing are we giving up going into this game?
316.2.
I'll read it to you. It's in the middle of it. 212.5. We're giving up only 0.2 more yards per game going into the Cowboys game than we were going into the Vikings game. Our pass defense has not been failing us on long passes and yardage. Where it's been getting us is on that crap, those bunch formations, the communication issues. We've given up passing touchdowns. We've allowed 25 passing touchdowns now. When we were going into that Vikings game, we had only given up 14. We've given up 11 passing touchdowns in 4 weeks because we can't communicate around the goal line in goal to goal situations inside the 5. So those are the 2 stats we got to work on. We got to be able to handle these bunch formations, and we need to get turnovers. We talked about earlier, the ball is not going our way. How many times did it hit dudes in the hands? We had 2 or 3 potential pick opportunities, and then we had at least twice the ball was on the rug, and we just didn't get to it. They fell on it.
Right.
That's that bad juju that is just ball's not bouncing our way this year.
And I know we gotta end this show, but I want to see Brian Branch get back to Brian Branch, creating turnovers. He's been fined. He's been fined these last few weeks for
doing
what
nothing.
Would never get fined by any other player in the NFL.
I think he's playing too careful now because he's playing
too careful.
I think he's playing out of position, guys.
Yeah, well,
this
that's
goes
part
back
of
to what
it.
I meant before.
I talked about that earlier, right? But Brian Branch is not a free safety. He is a guy that you want to have. Look, if we bring Brian Branch on 5 blitzes this week, I'll be happy because Brian Branch gets to the quarterback and he delivers. But the downside
sometimes
is
he delivers his helmet into the
not at quarterbacks. He only does that on wide receivers.
Okay.
Well, other teams hit Jared Goff with their helmets, and we don't get those calls.
Oh yeah, they punt his helmet.
That dude from the Commanders, every week he comes up as some sort of bad hit. He did it again last week, and they're all crying about he got fined again. And what is his name, Vulu or something like that? Vuvu,
Frankie Louvu?
I don't know. Frankie Louvu. That dirtbag, he's had at least 4 instances this year where he has taken a bad, let's just say he makes Brian Branch hits, who plays it while he's playing hard. He looks like he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, Parsons hit Jared Goff. Smack in front of the ref.
Yeah, they didn't care.
With the crown of his helmet. And we've got to get some calls too this week. We've got to get some calls.
And I don't know who the officiating crew is yet, so I was not happy to see the crew we got for the Green Bay game because that's the same crew we had for Kansas City game. So
and it worked out about the same.
It did work out about the same.
All right, guys. This has been great as always. And for those who joined us tonight, we had some new folks that are, well, you may have been watching and listening. You've got the guts to join us. We even have Bears fans in the chat. Listen, this is like we're all fans of ball here, and even though you're in our division, and we hope you lose against us at the last game of the season, which may be a play-in game, right, Brent?
Yes, sir.
Let's hope it's our Lions that pull out victorious. Ladies and gentlemen, we're the Gray Mains. We dissect, we analyze, we don't panic. We'll see you all after Dallas.
Busted outside left. Jameer down to the 10. Jameer to the 5. Jameer to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
And off Berry. Skirts to the left side. Breaks the tackle. And he will take it in. Touchdown!
Touchdown, Detroit Lions. That's what I'm talking about.